that work? Lovely. Good afternoon. I'd like to welcome you all, especially our platform party, Chancellor Emeritus Wendy Sasso, President William Robbins, President Emeritus Paul Gooch, Principal Stephen Rupp, the Chair of our board, John Field, and other esteemed board, Senate, and faculty members, our beyond competent staff, and incredible student dons and leaders, both on stage and sitting amongst you. I'd also like to welcome you, the incoming class of 2021. Yeah. To the beginning of your traditional ceremonies, and indeed to the beginning of your time here at Vick. Many of you know that our country has finally begun the process of formally and meaningfully addressing issues of our Indigenous people and their history and their circumstance. We are trying to understand and listen and acknowledge. To open traditional ceremonies today, we would like to formally acknowledge this sacred land on which Victoria University operates. It has been the site of human activity for 15,000 years. This land is the territory of the Huron-Wendat and Petun First Nations, the Seneca, and most recently the Mississaugas of the Credit River. The territory was the subject of the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Belt Covenant, an agreement between the Iroquois Confederacy and the Confederacy of the Ojibwe and allied nations to peaceably share and care for the resources of the Great Lakes. Today, the meeting place of Toronto is still the home to many Indigenous peoples from across Turtle Island, and we are grateful to have the opportunity to study, live, love, and work in this community and on this territory. We will now begin our traditional ceremonies. So when I was a student, in my first year, I studied philosophy, which I may or may not have thought was psychology. Oops. But there in my philosophy class, I discovered a passion. I loved the inquisitiveness of it. That's hard to say. The inquisitiveness of it all. The digging into issues, the persistence of questioning. I loved asking what minds are made of and what ethical positions might be held. I liked to ask whether there was a God and what we thought democracy was and what we could know for absolute certain. Turns out not much. It was fantastic, and before I say anything else, let me tell you all sitting here at the beginning of your academic adventures that I wish at this moment for you nothing more than having that time when studying and having fun are indistinguishable. Now in that philosophy class many years ago, here comes the boring part, are you ready? I'm gonna lecture you. Just kidding. In that philosophy class many years ago, I was transfixed by an interesting paradox. Oh, feedbacky. Is that my fault? Is that better? Can you hear me now still? Okay. This particular paradox was about personal identity. How can we know that something or someone is the same over time? What gives us continuity and makes us consistently ourselves from one time to another, even after all of our cells change, our beliefs change, our appearances, well maybe not mine, change, and our abilities change. The famous example of this paradox harkens back to an ancient Greek writing that chronicles a story of a mythical ship belonging to a hero named Theseus. Theseus' ship was sailed for many years to mark his heroism, and over the years, its parts needed to be replaced. Gradually, planks were removed and new planks were put in. The masts were changed, sails were taken off, and new ones put on. When those replacements began, the ship seemed obviously to be the same ship, also hard, 5 times fast. Same ship, same ship, same ship. But with an increasing number of new parts. But eventually, there were no original parts, and that's the paradox. Was it still the same ship? Is it still feedbacking? Is it bugging your ears? I'm the only one who can hear that. It's still in my head, isn't it? Okay. Yeah, it is too. Is it fine? All right. Some say that it couldn't be the same ship. There were none of the original materials there, so how could it be the same? On the other hand, it was still sailing along as the ship of Theseus. It still had the same meaning, connoting the same things, and looking the same, so how could it not still be the same ship of Theseus? But what does this have to do with today? Well, there's a philosopher named Plato, just ask Professor Gooch, who says, sort of, that the way we look as individuals, what types of individuals we are, whether we are behaving justly, whether we're aggressive or caring or creative or protective, can also be the way we look at a city or a state or a country. It's also likely the case that we can look at an institution, even one like a university, in the same way. The ship of Theseus paradox can do for us today something special. It can tell us a bit about what we hope happens to all of you on your journey through university. I also think it can tell us something about our college and our traditions. As individuals coming into university, you will bring your experiences, your beliefs, your own senses of yourselves, and gradually some of these will be reworked and replaced. The way you narrate your past experiences, the way your beliefs will be challenged and changed, even the way you think of yourself, all of that will change quite dramatically. especially if you let yourself experience university in a rich and robust way. So we do encourage pretty significant transformation. And yet, we also want this to be an experience that fits you. We want you to find a path of study and friends and experiences that match your interests, coalesce with your beliefs, and suit your temperament, your personality, and your general character. So in some sense, maybe the experience for you in university will be a little bit like the ship of Theseus. Perhaps your professors and your studies and your peers will lead you to change some of your own planks and sails and unlearn a few things, learn new things, alter your perspectives, and try new experiences. And all of that, at the same time, as those changes will become a part of you, you will sail on, sorry, I can't resist, as the same self with many new parts. You won't have to pick in the paradox between cultivating who you have been and changing who you are at the same time. The same is true of our university and of our own traditions. Exactly 150 years ago, the cornerstone was laid for the new Victoria College building. Tour guides now call it the Big Pink Castle, and it stands right in the middle of our beautiful campus and is fondly known as Old Vick. When it officially opened the following year, which is June of 1892, Victoria was one of the first universities to admit women. There were 226 students, 14 of whom were women. Vick established itself at that time as being open to change and inclusive in its principles. And although there remain many hurdles, and of course there still are, this identity is welcoming and inclusive as a home is one of which we are proud and which we still foster. We have grown a great deal since then. We have well over 3,000 students. Our buildings, our programs, our student body, and even our traditions have changed significantly over time. And yet again, like the ship, there's something of Vick that has not wavered. Victoria students are smart and ambitious and want to succeed for sure, but they also do so while helping each other do the same. So just like each of you can be sure that big changes will happen to you, you will still maintain integrity and strength of self, so too will Vick. We have grown and changed and will continue to do so with an abiding sense that the self of Vick will be marked by a generosity of spirit and a kindness in the pursuit of knowledge that marks Victoria and which students at Vick are rightly proud. On that note, I'd like to welcome you all again to Victoria College to the traditional ceremonies of 2017 and to the beginning of your quest. I will now call upon President William Robbins, Professor of English and Medieval Studies, to address the class of 2021. He is a respected scholar, winning awards for outstanding teaching and research. He was a beloved professor who taught and designed one of the biggest courses in English at U of T, and therefore in the country. He is also one of the only people who has his own chant. Who needs Batman when you have?
Robbins.
President?
Robbins.
Who?
Robbins.
Thank you, President Robbins.
That's great. Chair Field, Chancellor Emeritus Sasso, President Emeritus Gooch, Acting Principal Rupp, Usac President Kay, other members of the academic procession, welcome, and students of the entering class of Victoria College, welcome. Welcome to the 2017 traditional ceremonies here at the Isabel Bader Theater. Welcome to Vick. My name is William Robbins, and as president of Victoria University, it's my honor and my pleasure to greet you with my best wishes as you embark upon your university years. And I would really like to be able to see your faces better. Is it possible to get the house lights up just a little bit? Oh, look at that. Oh, well, welcome, welcome. Keep them up for a bit. Today we are gathering to mark the start of your undergraduate experience. This is the equivalent of the assembly on the first day of school. Except, of course, you are not at school anymore. You are at university. And as your counselors and friends and family members will have told you, university is different. At university, you are on your own. You are responsible for your own education. You will be treated as adults. There is no one to remember your lunchbox for you. There is no one to take photos of you on your first day of school. You've heard this kind of advice, right? Well, let's prove them wrong. You guys look great. Welcome to the start of your years at Vick. At Vick, you are not on your own. Vick is not a place where you either sink or you swim. Vick is a community of support. The principal, the registrar, the dean of students, the faculty members, the dons, the orientation leaders, all of us want to do whatever we can for Vick students to flourish. Today marks not just the start of the school year, it also marks your adoption into the Vick family. In 4 years or so, we might have another ceremony. We'll gather here at Vick, perhaps in this very room, and walk across Queen's Park to Convocation Hall for graduation convocation. And when I bring out this photo, then you'll have a chance to measure how far you have traveled. And believe me, you will feel different then. And although I just mentioned a 4-year completion of a university degree as if that's normal, in fact, probably fewer than half of you will have that trajectory. You may finish up in 5 or 6 or even 12 years. You may transfer elsewhere. You may leave university to answer the call of family or work or health. Whatever path you take, Vick will always be one of your homes. Now, tradition literally means passing across, handing down. Tradition is not the past, it's the cusp where the past is passed down into the future. Today, will they be receiving their pins? Today you will each be receiving pins with the Victoria crest and motto. And the 4 images on the crest originally referred to the 4 faculties of Victoria University when Vick was in Coburg, Ontario. The owl stood for the Faculty of Arts, the lamp for the Faculty of Theology, the Sphinx, the Faculty of Law, and Phoenix, the Faculty of Medicine. Well, after Victoria federated with the University of Toronto in 1890 and moved to its current site, the separate faculties of Vick underwent change. For instance, the art students, you, became part of the U of T Faculty of Arts and Science. Medicine and law disappeared as Vick separate faculties, and eventually the Faculty of Theology would become Emmanuel College. The images on the crest point to Vick's rich past, but freed from their original significations, they indicate how Vick, a community of many generations of students and alumni, keeps up an ever-changing interaction between the past and the future. The lamp, not just the illumination of spiritual wisdom, but also the flame that never goes out because it is passed from one lamp to the next. The Sphinx, which symbolizes not just cleverness in solving riddles, but also the difficult puzzles of self-identity that we face as the past exerts pressures that we hadn't anticipated and the future brings insights that we hadn't foreseen. The owl, which symbolizes the clear-sightedness of wisdom, also has the ability to look in all directions, including backwards and forwards, and to gaze into that dark unknown, even when light is lacking. And the phoenix is most obviously an emblem of the old and the new, the mythical bird that after living for 100 years is burnt in a consuming fire, only to emerge out of the fire, regenerated into a new life. It is always the old Vick, it's always the new Vick. Above the coat of arms is a crown in token of the Royal Charter, granted in 1836, thanks to which Victoria is a fully autonomous university, one of the oldest in Canada, although federated with the University of Toronto. We celebrate that foundation every October on Charter Day. And below the coat of arms is a phrase in Latin that serves as Victoria's motto, Abeunt studia in mores, studies pass into character. You are here to take advantage of the amazing opportunities offered by a first-rate liberal education. You are here to leverage that education to discover things about yourself, namely the most distinctive habits of your mind, to discover things about the world, namely the shape of some of the essential questions that we face, and to discover how you might, in the years to come, seek out opportunities to align your greatest talents with the world's greatest needs. This process will strengthen your resilience in the face of change. It will deepen your habits of mind, your character, with which to encounter new challenges of problem solving, understanding, and communication. My hope for each of you is that you will flourish during your time at university, and that here you will discover resources that will help you to flourish in the future as well. And in that hope today, at these traditional ceremonies, as you embark upon your university path, I want to draw attention to one habit of mind in particular that I hope you will develop during your time at Vick, and that is compassion. Compassion is sharing someone's misfortunes, being able to appreciate what someone in distress is feeling. Compassion is an appreciation of the interconnectedness of all humans through our shared vulnerability. Many of the world's people live in a state of suffering. Many of the people around you are in some degree of distress. Everybody you know will at some point in their lives be torn up, sick, abandoned, or grieving. Compassion on your part will strengthen your relationships with your friends and acquaintances, just as compassion of others for you will help to lessen your burdens. Indeed, it may be that human flourishing isn't possible without taking the risk of opening oneself out to others in a compassionate way. So where might you start honing a disposition for compassion? One of the best places to start is with compassion for yourself. You are all extremely talented, smart, keen individuals. Each one of you has had to deal with strong expectations, expectations on the part of teachers, family, and yourselves. When others want you to thrive, when they see in you the capacity to thrive, sometimes that comes with a negative side. There may be expectations that you must do well. You may feel that the respect that others have for you is dependent upon external marks of success, and I would bet that most of you have internalized many such expectations to some degree, so that your own sense of self-identity might be hard to separate out from those external marks of success. There's a lot of pressure to succeed, and there can be harsh disappointment at setbacks. Please know that during your university career, you will have setbacks. You will have doubts about what you are doing, doubts even about your own self-worth. And at these moments, I hope you can find compassion for yourself. I hope you can begin to acquire that disposition now at Vick. Take a moment to breathe deep and think about what it's like when you bash yourself, when you judge yourself and find yourself wanting. Think about what the expectations are that are leading you to be so harsh on yourself, and then think about how you would feel if those expectations were reduced or lifted by practicing a kindness towards yourself instead. We belong to an unpredictable era, a perplexing era, an era of fast-paced change and contradictions. The predictions tell us that over the next decade, each of you will change careers 7 or 8 times on average. You will move often. Your communities of personal support will be in continual transformation. How can Victoria help you develop a degree of mindful agency that will help you flourish as full human beings, affording you resilience in such flux? How might you emerge from a liberal education at the University of Toronto with a creative openness to new situations and new information, with a sophisticated ability to integrate the surprises of the new with your own long-term hopes to thrive as an individual and as a conscientious member of your communities? Well, we are here to help you discover some answers to those questions. Welcome to Victoria. Miigwech.
Thank you, President Robbins. What they say is true. You are better than Batman. I'd like to invite now Principal Stephen Rupp, Professor of Spanish and Portuguese, to deliver some welcoming remarks from the faculty at Victoria College. Professor Rupp has taught in 2 different Victoria College programs. He's well known for his academic and administrative vision and his astute understanding of the university and some of the things that you will need going through it. Professor Rupp.
Thank you very much, Kelly. So as acting principal, I'm happy to welcome you to Victoria College. As Vick students, you are joining a particular and defined community within the University of Toronto. And this afternoon, I would like to speak to you briefly about this community and what it might mean for you over the coming year, academic year, and for the duration of your studies here. Colleges and universities are institutions that often define their communities in historical terms. On this model, you're invited to think of yourselves as joining an educational tradition that started with the foundation of Victoria College in 1836 and extends to the present day, right? So if you look at simply the websites of colleges and universities, you will often see a short history that always starts with some foundational date. Thinking of this kind is common, but it's worth noting the changes and adaptations that mark the histories of colleges and universities, and some of the people who preceded me today have spoken about this. Victoria College was founded as an institution of the Wesleyan Methodist Church, so a religious foundation, east of the growing city of Toronto in Cobourg, Ontario. Its original building, Victoria Hall, remains standing in Cobourg, and you can visit it by taking a drive or a train trip of about 1 hour to the east of here. I think that today, towards the end of the proceedings, you will sing about the old Ontario Strand. There's a song about Vick. And of course, the Ontario Strand is the beach at Cobourg, at one time an important port, and not one in Toronto. Victoria federated with the University of Toronto, a public institution, in 1890 and moved to what we now call the Old Vic Building in 1892. Since that time, many other buildings have been opened on campus, most recently the wonderful Goldring Student Center. And the relationship with the University of Toronto has evolved into the current close relationship between Victoria College and the Faculty of Arts and Science. Part of what defines Victoria's community is this rich and diverse history. In the last analysis, of course, this history can be traced back to the European immigrants who settled in southern Ontario and gave European names to many towns and cities, and to the indigenous peoples who have shaped this land over thousands of years, referenced in the land acknowledgement earlier this afternoon. A community, of course, can also be defined in terms of the present, a community of now. And so in reference to the groups of people who come together each day on the Victoria campus. In the first instance, of course, this is the pedagogical community of your classmates and teachers, right? The people you see in your courses and seminars and the instructors and teaching assistants in those rooms. We should be mindful as well of the people who support our intellectual work in various ways. The student mentors and representatives, the advisors in the offices of the registrar and the dean of students, the librarians and staff of the Pratt Library, the tradesmen, cleaners, and security staff who maintain the buildings in which we live and work, the cooks and servers in Burwash Dining Hall and Ned's, the groundskeepers who keep the gardens in the summer and remove snow and ice in the winter. And today it's a fine summer day before the storm arrived, and it really is a good day for the beginning of term, made much more pleasant by the wonderful physical condition of this campus. At Victoria, we go about our academic work in outstanding physical spaces and places, and our community includes the many groups of people who make this possible. As an academic, I'm happy to work with my head. That is what I do most days, and I value those who work with their hands. From this perspective, you are joining not one community, but many communities, marked by a long span of history and by the many interests and tasks that come together at Vick. You are connected over time with the alumni of the college, that is, of course, many, many people who have studied before at Vick, and in the present with others who provide resources in support of your academic work and who study in the other colleges that are central to the undergraduate life of the University of Toronto. I would repeat Professor Robbins' statement that at Vick you are not alone, that there are many people here to support you in your studies, your instructors, your teaching assistants, the student mentors, the people who represent you as students of the college, the staff in the registrar's office and the library. It's actually a long list of people. You should bear that in mind. You have many people here to help you. So I'm delighted to welcome you today and to celebrate Victoria and its many traditions. Thank you.
Thank you, Principal Rupp. Helen Hayes will now give a welcome from our orientation team. Helen is in her 4th year at Vick, doing a double major in ethics, society, and law, and American studies with a minor in history, focusing on civil rights issues with respect to modern discipline and gang violence. Too bad she's not scholarly. You'll have to listen to her very closely. Her voice has succumbed to her enthusiasm this week, and she's a little croaky.
Good afternoon. My name is Helen Hayes, and I've had the pleasure of holding the position of the Victoria College 2017 Orientation Co-Chair. Today, I would like to share with you how the hopes, aspirations, and efforts of students like yourselves interact with the great traditions of this academic institution to produce an ever greater vibrancy within Victoria College. While Victoria College is 181 years old, its vitality continues to depend on an energetic and dynamic interaction between the old and the new, between tradition and change, between faculty and students, friends and colleagues, and between the welcoming of the newest Victoria College cohort and your participation in our oldest collegiate traditions. It is for this reason that I believe Vick sustains a diverse academic community where intellectual life is informed by tradition, but whose fundamental commitments are to the development of new knowledge. One of the defining features of a university is the opportunity to constantly renew itself. Each year, we have a new opportunity to take the best of our past, add all the talents and energies of incoming students and faculty, and rededicate ourselves to the pursuit of a deeper knowledge of the truth about the world around us. Universities must model a commitment to the notion that truth cannot simply be claimed, but must be established. Established through reasoned argument, assessment, and even sometimes uncomfortable challenges that provide the foundation for truth itself. Above the entrance to Old Vic lies the motto, "The truth shall make you free." All of us should be willing to engage in truth-seeking discourse that builds our character and knowledge and ultimately aids in our transition from students to scholars. You are entering the university at a time of transition in your own lives. It is also, however, a time of rapid change in societies everywhere, a time of modification, a time of unparalleled social awareness. It is time that gives way to change, that fosters and nurtures its growth, which leads to progress and advancement. It is time that is so finite, yet also distinctly infinite. We feel it intensely in both its expansiveness and its constraint, and yet it is absolutely intangible. Time is elusive, yet it's so inextricably linked to the past, the present, and the future that we must acknowledge its presence and confront the ways in which it shapes our lives and the lives of the others around us. Time flows through us like the sand through an hourglass, each grain of sand indistinguishable to the human eye, yet as a collective, extremely visible. Your time at Victoria College will be made up of many grains of sand, many mundane, routine, simple moments that we may take for granted, yet those moments, building up like the sand at the bottom of an hourglass, shape who you are, pave the path to your success, and ultimately create the solid foundation for the journey that you have ahead of you. Poet Henry Wadsworth Longfellow wrote, "The lives of great people remind us that we can make our own lives sublime, and departing, leave behind footprints in the sands of time." Your involvement at Victoria College is about places and paths, absence and presence, arriving and leaving, identification and dislocation. It's about the kind of overlaying of a fragile moment, like the falling of a single grain of sand on an enormous natural and historical past. Leaving your own foot is important, but even more important is the idea that your footprint is significant because it has been marked on a place where generations of scholars like yourselves have already been, have already experienced, and have already learnt. As you set forth on your academic careers at Victoria College, I hope you will be open to and will seek out the unexpected, the unfamiliar, and even on the occasion, the uncomfortable. You are not here to chart an easy course, but to take intellectual and creative risks. You are not here to replicate your past experiences, but to have new ones in the company of others who will support you, challenge you, and significantly enrich your lives. It is my greatest hope that your education at Victoria College will give you the desire and ability to engage in the kind of vigorous moral discourse that gives meaning to all of our lives. In your years on this campus, as your knowledge blossoms, so correspondingly will your power to effect change, to change time, to turn the intangible into the tangible, to leave behind footprints in the sands of time. Welcome to Victoria College.
Thank you, Helen. We are now going to begin the active part of our ceremony, the sand in the hourglass and the lamp of learning ceremonies. Lots of what you do this week is about being in the moment, being in the present, having fun, meeting people, exploring the university and the city. And lots is about your future, what you will study, what degree you'll get, what career you'll forge, who you'll become, how you'll change the world. No pressure. But this afternoon is in part about looking back. We look back in intellectual curiosity, in respectful reflection, and in thanks to the Victorians who preceded us. They paved the way for this to be a college that embraces difference. We pride ourselves in being intellectual and scholarly and strong, but also humble in learning from others. We have a strong sense of unity at the Vick family with a recognition of the importance of diversity of views within it. These traditional ceremonies are your welcome into that history. They give us a moment for new students to join past students as far back as 1836, on whose paths we are walking. The ceremonies are also a venue for passing forward the lamp and the hourglass. With that, I would like to introduce Alison Broadworth, who graduated from Vick exactly 20 years ago, who's counting, in the class of '97. She's now the Director of Alumni Affairs and Advancement for Victoria University. Alison completed her bachelor's degree in French and History and did her master's degree in Education. She's a buoyant force in the alumni office, supporting students after they graduate and connecting them with current students. Tonight, Allison will guide the ceremony of the sand in the hourglass. Allison?
Hello, welcome to Vick. So the ceremony of the sand and the hourglass. In the hourglass is sand from past Victoria classes. Each year, the new class adds sand in recognition of blending of the paths of Victorians before them. To carry out this ceremony, I would like to invite Melinda Hector and Sarah Taganina to the hourglass. Melinda is in third year at Victoria studying neuroscience and psychology. Sarah is in third year studying bioethics and psychology. The Victoria Hourglass, with the sand from the past classes, is now joined by the sand of the class of 2021. Thank you, Melinda and Sarah.
Thank you, Allison, Melinda, and Sarah. Now I'd like to introduce Yvette Ali to guide us through the ceremony of the Lamp of Learning. Yvette graduated from University of Toronto in '93 with a Master's in Science and Planning. She's worked at U of T for 20 years, and last year we managed to scoop her, and now she is the University Registrar for Victoria. Yvette?
Thank you, Kelly, and a very warm welcome to the class of 2021. It's my absolute pleasure to introduce the Lamp of Learning ceremony. The Lamp of Learning is lit as a symbol of the passing of the light of knowledge and as a recognition of our belief inscribed on the archway of Old Vic that reads, "The truth shall make you free." To carry out this ceremony, I would like to invite Gabrielle Calderon and Gabby Galloway to light the Lamp of Learning. Gabe is in fourth year, majoring in English and classics, and Gabby is a third year studying astrophysics. The Lamp of Learning is a symbol of the passing of study and scholarship from students past to the students of the incoming class.
Thank you, Yvette, Gabriel, and Gabby. So we will now hear from Zahava Kay, the president of Usac, the student government here at Victoria College. Zahava is in her fourth year of studies in anthropology and history. She's particularly interested in medical anthropology and early modern European history. Plus, she picked Vick because her older sister told her that she wouldn't really like the other college she was considering, Trinity. Zahava?
Thank you, Kelly. You're always telling my secrets, aren't you? Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm honored to be standing here with you today to speak on behalf of the student experience at Victoria College, in front of our esteemed administrators, professors, faculty, fellows, dons, your fearless and dedicated orientation leaders, and the unbelievably hardworking, kind, enthusiastic orientation executive for which I'm eternally grateful and awe-inspired. Most importantly, however, I am humbled and honored to be standing before you, our incoming class, but I must admit I feel a little bit like a fraud. I want to deliver an inspiring talk about your years to come, to guide you seamlessly through university with flawless advice and to ensure for you an incredible future. And while I do think that all of your future will be incredible, there are two obstacles to me delivering the speech that I imagine. The first being that I cannot tell you how to seamlessly glide through university because I don't know. And the second being that I'm not sure that I actually should. If I truly want the best for you out of your time here, then I want you to make mistakes. I want you to be pushed forward out of your comfort zones. And I think I would be doing you a disservice if I taught you how to do university properly. And like I said, I have no idea. Many people look back on their years in university as the peak of their life. In many ways, this is true. Over your first year especially, you will reach thrilling new heights in your intellect, in your passion, in your knowledge of yourself and the world. But it's a lie to tell you that these upcoming years will be one continuous high. While on one end you will experience your greatest triumphs, you will also be met with your greatest challenges and face struggle and defeats that feel devastating. The stakes and the expectations have never been higher, which means the highs and lows have never been as extreme. You are currently standing, or rather sitting, on the cusp of a period of immense change. Internally, you will be exposed to new ideas and experiences that will force you to rethink everything that you thought you knew. Remember that your unlearning is just as important as your learning. Externally, we are all inundated with the weight of the political climate dominating world news. It is irresponsible to ignore the fact that for many of us, human morality is in question more than it ever has been in our lives. We are faced daily with horrifying acts of racism, transphobia, sexism, Islamophobia, and violent oppression. The overwhelming discourse on these topics can feel extremely heavy to bear alone. No one here should bear that weight alone. 2 people are stronger than 1, and 3 people are stronger than 2. So imagine the capacity we have as a college of over 3,000, or a university of 80,000. Throughout history, many of the most important revolutions have begun with university students like yourselves. Starting as early as the year 1229, when French students went on strike for 2 years to object police violence during protests. University students have held an immense power to enact social and political change. In 1968, student protests in countries all across the world, from Spain to Poland to China to France to the United States, caused governments worldwide to have no choice but to respond to calls against state repression. Students have been at the foreground of the French Revolution, the American Civil Rights Movement, international women's suffrage movements, and that's just to name a very, very small few. Historically, one of the first things dictatorships or totalitarian regimes do once assuming power is shut down universities, because they know that students have the capability to inspire and facilitate change. I encourage you all to remember this as the world moves full throttle into an uncertain future. Remember that you are among a group of engaged activists who will force you to wrestle with your values and with society, and that these discussions in your classrooms, in the quad, and in this very theater with one another have the power to shape the world. And historically, as students, we're pretty damn good at that. Just as no student protest is carried out by one person alone, nor should your struggles with yourself. Over these years, reach out to one another, to the resources here at Vick, and to your personal support systems. Remember to be kind to one another and to yourself, to give the benefit of the doubt, to offer help to those who need it, and ask for it when you need it. Remember to call your parents, to eat your vegetables, to go to class, to never mix hard liquor. And above all, remember that 4 years is an extremely short amount of time, so enjoy and learn from every second of it. Welcome to Victoria.
I know, right? Thank you, Zahava. Now it's time for an official welcome from the Alumni Association. Louise Yearwood, who is a Vick grad of 1986 in English with a French minor, is our Executive Director of Alumni Affairs and Advancement, whom we were lucky to have join us last year, and she will bring welcome from the Alumni Office.
Thank you, Dean Castle, and good afternoon, one and all. I echo the sentiments of my colleagues with a very warm welcome to all of you to the class of 2021. As you just heard, my name's Louise Yearwood, and I have the privilege of serving Victoria University as its Executive Director of Alumni Affairs and Advancement. But today I'm here not only in this role, but also as a proud graduate of Victoria College. Today I have the honor to represent our Alumni Association of Victoria College, or the AVC as it's known. Founded in the early 1900s, the AVC comprises a huge community of 40,000 people. Ever a progressive group, the AVC instituted the Lamp of Learning and the Hourglass ceremonies that you've just witnessed. As you've heard, the lamp itself was donated by the women of the class of 1927 to celebrate their time at Vick. They wanted to ensure that women engaged in higher education, and they were a minority at the time, that these women were recognized for their courage, inquiring minds, and progressive thinking. When you graduate from Victoria College, you will automatically become one of our alumni, and you'll be an important part of this ever-growing community. As you know, in today's world, being part of a ready-made global network is highly advantageous, especially when you share in common with the people in your network a defining moment in your life, namely graduation from higher education and a love of learning developed through the same institution, Victoria College. The AVC will offer you all kinds of services and fun, like special events addressing topics of current interest, lectures, awards like our Emerging Leaders Award, whereby you get to nominate a fellow student who's achieved something special in their first 10 years after graduation, and of course reunions. Every 5 years, you will hit what we call an honored year, and you'll be invited back to campus to celebrate and to see what all your classmates have been doing with their lives. Your class reps, who will be identified in your graduating year, will keep you connected to each other and let you know about all the things that are going on, probably through some form of social communication. And I say some form because who knows what future technology may look like. You may all be talking to each other telepathically by then. What you can count on for sure is that you will be part of a proud network of Victoria graduates, and the AVC will welcome you with open arms. So once again, my very warm welcome to each of you. You've made an excellent decision in choosing Victoria, and I'm not just saying that because I took that leap of faith myself many moons ago. On behalf of the AVC, our very best wishes to each of you for an outstanding first year at Victoria College and many more to come, I know. I hope to see you all around campus. And now, Dean Castle will return to the podium to introduce our Chancellor Emeritus, who is a very proud alumna, Dr. Wendy Sasso. Thank you.
Thank you, Louise. This is my last kick at the can up here, so I'm just going to say have a wonderful year, and I do hope that I will be able to meet many, many, many of you over the course of the next 4 years. So, I would like finally to introduce your outstanding Chancellor Emeritus, Dr. Wendy Sasso. Dr. Sasso graduated with the Victoria College class of 1971. She was the first female chancellor in the university's history, and she is a member of the Order of Canada, recognized for her tremendous volunteerism and for her board and business acumen. She'll be teaching corporate ethics in the Vick 1 chambers during this year. She's also warm and funny and intuitive and clever, and we're very happy to have her address this class.
Kelly and Louise, thank you very much for those very warm words that you've spoken. I am honored to represent Carol Taylor, who is the current Chancellor. You're going to have an opportunity to meet her in a few weeks. She couldn't be here today, so it's my great pleasure to have this opportunity to welcome the class of 2021 to Victoria University. I'm sure you already know that you've joined a very special community. If you don't know yet, you're going to find out as this week goes on. This ceremony, this welcoming gathering, is just one example of what makes Vick unique. And there will be many, many more opportunities for you to experience our community. You've all got your own reasons for having chosen Vick. Maybe your sister said, "Don't go to that other college, you won't like it." Or maybe your parents came here, maybe you read about us. I came because my Latin teacher, Mrs. Farr, at high school, a woman I really looked up to, was a Vick alum herself, and she was a very strong person, and she said, "You will go to Vick." And I said, "Yes, Mrs. Farr." And so I did, and I was very, very happy about that decision. You're going to make friends, and I'm just going to ask you to take a second, look to your left, look to your right, look behind you, because some of the people that you see and that you're meeting this week are going to become your friends for the rest of your life. You don't know who they are yet, but I can tell you this is going to happen. 50 years ago this week, I came to this campus and attended the same kind of ceremony, although we didn't have this wonderful Bader auditorium at the time. It was done upstairs in the chapel of Old Vic. But I have to tell you that some of the people I met that day and that week are still my very close friends. That's the test of friendship, 50 years, wouldn't you say? There's somebody in this room who is going to be, probably more than one, they're going to be those people for you in your life. And I think you should look forward to meeting them and cultivating a friendship that will stand you in good stead as your own journey through life unfolds. You're going to make friends with your professors as well, with colleagues. Some will be best friends, some won't, but professors and volunteers and administrative staff as well, because Vic is very blessed in its students, its faculty, and its staff. I hope you take advantage of our quite glorious grounds. My son, Malcolm, came to Vic, and he said, he graduated a few years ago, 2011, and he said he always felt when he crossed over, because he was in forestry on the main part of the campus, when he crossed over to come here, he had come to a real oasis. Our grounds crew worked very, very hard to ensure that you have beautiful greenery and flowers. It is a lovely place to be, so keep your eyes open and enjoy it. I have a few acknowledgements that I'd like to make. I'd like to thank President Robbins for his address and for taking pictures of you, because pictures are important, and it's true. Your parents aren't here to take these pictures of you on your first day, but President Robbins is. I'd also like to thank our speakers who brought so much to the program: Acting Principal Rupp, Usac President Zahava, Orientation Co-Chair Helen, and Gabriel, Melinda, Gabrielle, and Sarah, also Louise Yearwood, and our commuter and residence dons who are going to be singing for us today. Yes, I did say that, didn't I? Yeah, still to come. As you can well imagine, ceremonies like the one today do take a great deal of preparation. They don't just happen. So I would like to extend a huge thank you as well to the team in the Office of the Dean of Students, the Orientation Executive and leaders, and of course, our own Dean, Kelly Castle, for her remarks and her role as MC and keeping us moving along quite smartly. We are really happy that you chose Vic, and this is an outstanding turnout of our first-year students. And we do look forward to hearing about what the next 4 years will bring for all of you. Whatever you do, get involved. Get involved, join clubs, participate in things. It will enrich your experience while you're here. And I'll also tell you that when you graduate, and I know that's 4 years from now or perhaps more, but stay involved, because you still have a lot to learn about this college that you've chosen. And if you remember my advice about staying involved when you graduate, you will really have a good time and your education will continue. We look forward to you staying connected to Vic and to this community. And you know, it's very hard to be up here with a microphone in front of me and not offer you some advice. I know you've had advice from friends, from family and parents and past teachers. Everybody wants to give you advice. And I'm just like them. I want to give you some advice too. So maybe you'll remember it, and maybe you won't, but I'm going to have a kick at the can and do it. One of the things is people always talk about the parties at university, right? You're going to have a great time. Those parties are far more enjoyable if you don't have a cloud of undone work hanging over your head. So in the interest of making the most of your social life at Vick, the first piece of advice is stay on top of your workload. If you do it every day, you'll be absolutely fine. Your professors are very, very reasonable. You won't be overworked. Just get the work done, and you're going to have a much more enjoyable experience. I'm also going to say that there are a few things, and they've been touched on, that you should try to remember. And I know this is a university, and the life of the mind and your character and your spirit are really important, but so is your body. And your mind and your spirit and your character live in this vessel, and you only get one of them. So I'm just going to suggest that you make sure you try to get enough sleep. Not every night. Some nights you're going to be out having a good time, but try to make up for it. So get enough sleep. Stay hydrated. Drink some water as well as other things. Eat enough good food to maintain a comfortable, healthy weight for you, and get a little exercise every day. You start with a real advantage because you're at Vick, and many of you will be taking classes on the other side of campus. So you kind of have a built-in exercise program when you're at Vick. But believe me, if you cultivate these habits now, they will stand you in very good stead as your life goes on. So just try to remember those really basic ideas. On the weekend, there was an article in the New York Times about the biggest problems that university students across North America are going to be facing starting this week. Now, it wasn't about their brains. Am I smart enough to do this work? It wasn't about their sense of organization. Will I be able to keep myself on track and get things in and get marks? It wasn't even about money. Can I afford to be here? Will there be enough money for tuition and expenses? Do you know what the biggest concern was? Loneliness. That was the biggest worry for students. And when they spoke to students in subsequent years, 2, 3, and 4, they said, the majority of them said that loneliness was the issue that had been a big one for them. And we all know that that can lead to anxiety and stress and so on. Well, once again, just like the built-in exercise program by being at Vick and taking classes on the other side of Queen's Park, you've come to a place where it's our mission to make sure you're not lonely. We want to make sure that you are making friends, that you do have someone to talk to. So that'll keep your stress levels down. Don't let yourself get lonely. If you're feeling lonely, talk to somebody. It could be a volunteer, it could be a faculty member, it could be a fellow student, it could be a staff member. Just remember that we really care about you, we really want you to be successful, and we also want you to be happy, and we do not want you to be lonely. There's no need for it here. So now I'm going to invite our commuter and residence dons back to the stage. This is the moment you've been waiting for. This is show business. They're going to sing for you. They're going to sing the Lamp of Learning song, and then they're going to lead us in singing our college song, which is the Old Ontario Strand. So please do stand. It's on your program, the words. Sing along when it comes to the Old Ontario Strand. And then when we've done our singing, we're going to ask you to remain standing until the platform party has exited the stage. And then we're all going to meet up across in the Burwash Hall dining room for the Dean's dinner. Welcome to Victoria.
Shall make